Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna talk about the comparison between Foundry and the Smeltery, and also how Foundry works. So the first thing, we have to build ourselves a Foundry Controller. Just melt one block of obsidian and release the obsidian into the scourge bricks, and then it will become a Foundry Controller. So now we have Foundry Controller, we can build ourselves a Foundry, right? But when I first built ourselves a Foundry, and I found out that it doesn't work. I built it just like the Smeltery does, but yeah, it just don't function. And I go to the Discord server and I asked someone called Shiny, and he told me that the Foundry needs to be filled with edge and corners. So we can just fill in the edges. So as you can see, it's already functional. And now the second thing you should know is that the Foundry doesn't alloy. I have put some materials into the Foundry, and as you can see, it doesn't really alloy. You just keep the same materials in there. And I think the only advantage is that the Foundry have a lot more capacity. And you can see the Foundry have 672 ingots. And the Smeltery only have 120 ingots. So for the same prototype, the Foundry does have way more capacity, but it doesn't appeal me at all. And the next thing about the Foundry is that it produces byproducts. Like take the emerald ore for example. When we put the emerald ore into the Foundry, and then it will produce some molten emerald and some diamond. And while in the Smeltery, when I put the emerald into the Smeltery, it will just produce 2 molten emerald, so there won't be any diamonds. But it's only the case for emerald. You can try to put the iron and the gold ore into the Foundry to see what happens. And I found out that the Foundry doesn't produce any variable resources other than the emerald with diamond. So although it will produce some byproduct, but it doesn't really matter. And then I'll take ancient debris for example. When you put the ancient debris into the Foundry, it will produce 1 molten debris, some diamond, and 1 ingot of molten gold. Yeah, it produced quite a bit, but when I put it into the Smeltery, so it actually produced 2 molten debris for 1 ancient debris, which means you can duplicate 1 extra more nether scrap for just 1 ancient debris. So yeah, it's way better than the Foundry. So overall, in my opinion, the Smeltery is already way better than the Foundry. So the Foundry doesn't really worth our time. You can just keep the Smeltery. And the last thing I want to say is that the blaze is actually very useful. So when you venture into the nether and you found yourself a fortress, and you also luckily found a blaze spawner, and I highly recommend build a Smeltery under the spawner. So when the blaze spawn into the Smeltery, it will actually start hurting themselves. And as they take damage, they will produce molten blaze in the Smeltery. And the molten blaze is actually way better than the lava. As you can see, the lava's temperature is now 1000 degrees Celsius. So as you already know, that 1000 degrees Celsius is actually not enough, because like when I want to make a queen slime ingot, it will actually take 1150 degrees to melt a molten queen slime. So the lava is not enough. So now I have the molten blaze. I'll put the bucket on the table and release the molten blaze on the basket and the bucket. So we can just put the molten blaze into the fuel. And as you can see, The temperature already rise up to 1500 degrees Celsius, which is the best temperature you can have. So yeah, so highly recommend build a smeltery under the blaze spawner, which can provide you infinite amount of heating resource. You don't have to bring the lava every time you run out of fuel. So yeah, that's it for today. Goodbye.